Dae-jung wiped down the last table in his section and took a deep breath. His hands were shaking slightly, but he tried to hide it. Tonight was different from every other night he had worked at Stellar Crown Restaurant. Tonight, the Emperor himself was coming. The Grand Imperial Station Meridian was the biggest space station in the galaxy. It floated between star systems as a place where different species could meet and talk without fighting. The station had shops, hotels, offices, and restaurants. But Stellar Crown was the most expensive and famous restaurant on the entire station. Only the richest and most powerful beings in the galaxy ate here. Dae-jung had worked at Stellar Crown for 2 years now. He was 28 years old and had left Earth to find better work. Life on Earth was hard for humans. The rest of the galaxy saw humans as weak and simple. They were good at following orders and doing boring jobs, but nothing more. Most aliens thought humans were barely smart enough to serve food and clean floors. At first, Dae-jung had been excited to work among the stars. He thought he would see amazing things and meet interesting people. And he did see amazing things. He saw aliens with 4 arms and crystal skin. He saw beings made of pure energy who had to wear special suits to hold their shape. He saw creatures so tall they had to duck through doorways, and others so small they needed special chairs to reach the table. But the excitement had faded quickly. None of these powerful beings saw him as interesting. To them, he was just a human who brought their food. They barely looked at him when he took their orders. Some of them made jokes about humans right in front of him, as if he could not understand their words. Others treated him like a robot, snapping their fingers or tentacles or claws to get his attention. Dae-jung had learned to smile through it all. He needed this job. The pay was good enough to send money back to his family on Earth. His younger sister was in school, and his parents were getting old. So he smiled, nodded, and brought the food without complaining. Manager T-min walked past him, checking every detail in the restaurant. T-min was also human, one of the few who had managed to get a high position. But even he had to work twice as hard as any alien manager would. One mistake, and the owners would replace him with someone from another species. Dae-jung, T-min said quietly, "The Emperor's party will sit in Section 7. That's your section." Dae-jung felt his stomach drop. "Me? Are you sure? Maybe someone with more experience should." "Everyone has experience," T-min interrupted. "But you're the most careful. You never drop anything. You never forget an order. Just do exactly what you always do, and it will be fine." He paused and lowered his voice even more. "But if you make any mistake tonight, they will fire both of us. Do you understand?" Dae-jung nodded. His mouth felt dry. The other servers were preparing their sections too. Most of them were from different species. There was Velcra, a tall blue-skinned woman from the Velcori trade worlds. She had 6 fingers on each hand and could carry 4 plates at once. There was Nom, a short, stocky being from the mining colonies, with rock-like skin that could handle extreme heat. And there was Reektish, a Krellian with insect-like features and quick movements. Reektish walked past Dae-jung and clicked his mandibles in what might have been laughter. They put the human on the Emperor's table. This should be entertaining. Velcro joined in. Maybe they want to show the Emperor how low the restaurant has fallen. Next they will have humans cooking the food. Dae-jung said nothing. He had learned that responding only made things worse. Instead, he focused on preparing his section. He checked every glass for spots. He made sure every fork and knife was perfectly straight. He folded the napkins exactly the way the restaurant required. An hour later, the announcement came through the communication system. The Imperial Party is arriving. All staff to positions. Dae-jung stood at the edge of his section, hands behind his back, trying to look calm. Through the main entrance, he could see the security team arrive first. They were massive warriors in dark armor, carrying weapons that could probably destroy a small ship. They scanned the restaurant with serious faces, checking every corner. Then the Emperor entered. Emperor Wrath was the most impressive being Dae-jung had ever seen. He was easily 8 feet tall, with crimson scales that seemed to glow in the restaurant's soft lighting. His eyes were pure gold, sharp and intelligent. He wore robes that looked simple but were probably worth more than everything Dae-jung would own in his entire life. Power radiated from him like heat from a fire. Beside him walked Empress Lyra, equally stunning with silver blue scales that sparkled when she moved. She carried something small and precious in her arms. Dae-jung realized it was a baby dragon. The infant was tiny, no bigger than a cat, with scales that shifted between colors like oil on water. It made soft chirping sounds and looked around with huge curious eyes. Its little tail wrapped around the Empress's arm. The Imperial party moved to Section 7, Dae-jung's section. His heart pounded as he approached the table. He bowed deeply, the way he had practiced many times. "Your Majesties," he said, keeping his voice steady. "Welcome to Stellar Crown. It is an honor to serve you tonight." Emperor Wrath barely glanced at him. The Empress was busy settling the baby into a special cushioned seat beside her. Other members of the Imperial Party took their places around the large table. They were all Thularian, all dragon-like, all clearly important. Dae-jung took their orders, writing everything down carefully. The Emperor wanted the nebula steak, rare. The Empress wanted the crystal fish. The others ordered various expensive dishes. No one ordered anything for the baby. Dae-jung did not ask. It was not his place to question. The dinner service continued smoothly for the next hour. Dae-jung moved between tables, carrying plates and refilling glasses. The restaurant hummed with important conversations. Deals worth billions of credits were being discussed over expensive wine and rare foods. At the Emperor's table, the baby dragon had finally settled down. Kiro was lying in his cushioned seat, playing with a small golden toy. The Empress would glance at him occasionally, but most of her attention was on the Velcori ambassador sitting across from her. They were discussing trade routes through the northern sectors. Emperor Wrath was deep in conversation with his military advisors. They spoke in low, serious tones about border security and fleet positions. The Emperor's golden eyes were focused and sharp. He barely touched his food. Everything seemed perfect, exactly the way an imperial dinner should be. Then the Krellian delegation arrived. Dae-jung noticed them immediately. The Krellians were an insect-like warrior species, known for their aggressive nature and quick tempers. 3 of them entered the restaurant, led by Ambassador Thex. He was tall and covered in dark green armor-like skin. His multiple eyes scanned the room, and his mandibles clicked with what sounded like irritation. Manager T-Min rushed to greet them personally. The Krellians had a reservation, but they were late. Their table was in Section 4, far from the Imperial Party. T-Min guided them to their seats, bowing and apologizing for the wait. But Ambassador Thex was not happy. His voice was loud enough that several tables turned to look. "This table is unacceptable," he snapped. "We should be seated closer to the Emperor. The Krellian Empire deserves better placement than this insult." T-Min tried to calm him. "Ambassador, I apologize, but all tables near the Imperial Party were reserved weeks ago. This is our best available." Best available. Thex's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of anger among his species. "The Velcori get seats at the Emperor's table, but we are pushed to the corner like servants? This is a deliberate insult." Several security guards moved closer, hands near their weapons. The other diners grew quiet, watching the scene unfold. This was bad. Arguments in Stellar Crown were rare, and arguments involving Imperial guests were dangerous. Emperor Wrath looked up from his conversation, his golden eyes fixed on the Krellian ambassador with the intensity of a predator spotting prey. "Ambassador Thex," the Emperor's voice cut through the restaurant like a blade. "You will lower your voice. This is a place of diplomacy, not a battlefield." For a moment, it seemed like the situation would calm down. Thex's multiple eyes met the Emperor's gaze. Then, surprisingly, the Krellian bowed his head slightly. "My apologies, Your Majesty." The Krellian Empire meant no disrespect. The tension eased. Conversations resumed. Guards stepped back. T-Men escorted the Krellians to their table, and they sat down, though Thex still looked angry. Dae-jung released a breath he did not know he was holding. Crisis avoided. He returned to his duties, checking on his tables and taking new orders. But then things went wrong very quickly. At the Krellian table, Ambassador Thex was speaking loudly again. This time, he was talking to the Velcori trade representative at the next table. His voice carried across the restaurant. "The Velcori always get special treatment. Everyone knows your species bribes your way into the Emperor's favor." The Velcori representative stood up, her blue skin darkening with anger. "How dare you? The Velcori Trade Network has served the Empire honestly for 300 years. Honestly, Thex laughed, a harsh clicking sound. Your entire species is built on lies and stolen profits. And your species is built on violence and stupidity. The Velkhori shot back. The argument exploded. More people stood up. Voices rose. Guards moved in to separate the two groups. Emperor Vras stood from his table, and when he did, everyone felt it. His presence was like a wave of pressure that made it hard to breathe. Enough! The Emperor's voice shook the walls. Both of you will leave this restaurant immediately, or I will have you removed from the station entirely. In the chaos and noise, no one noticed the baby. Little Kiro had been startled by the shouting. The baby dragon had climbed out of his cushioned seat and dropped to the floor. His tiny claws clicked on the polished surface as he crawled away from the noise and anger. The Empress was standing now, trying to calm the situation. The Emperor was focused on the arguing ambassadors. The Imperial Guards were watching the potential fight. Everyone's attention was somewhere else, except Daejung. He was carrying a tray of empty glasses back to the kitchen when he saw movement near the floor. His eyes widened. The baby was crawling toward the kitchen corridor, away from the table, away from safety. Daejung looked around quickly. Should he alert someone? But everyone was busy with the argument. The Empress had her back turned. The guards were forming a barrier between the angry groups. The baby kept crawling, moving faster now. He seemed to be following the warm air flowing through the restaurant. The heating system pulled air from the thermal exchanges and pushed it through vents in the floor. Then Daejung saw where the baby was heading, and his blood turned cold. There was a maintenance area behind the kitchen corridor. Normally it was sealed off, but today there had been repairs. Daejung had seen the technicians working there earlier. They must have forgotten to seal it properly because the vent cover was pushed aside. That vent led directly to the thermal exhaust system, and beyond that, to the cold vacuum of space. The baby was crawling straight toward it. Daejung did not think. He dropped his tray. Glasses shattered on the floor, making a loud crash, but he did not care. He ran. His feet pounded against the floor as he raced toward the maintenance area. The baby had reached the vent opening. Kiro seemed confused by the rush of air coming from below. The little dragon leaned forward, trying to see into the darkness. No! Daejung shouted, but he was still too far away. The baby lost his balance. Kiro's tiny body tipped forward and began to fall into the vent. Daejung dove. His body slid across the polished floor, and he reached out with both hands. His fingers closed around the baby's small body just as Kiro dropped into the opening. The momentum pulled Daejung forward. He slammed against the vent opening, half his body hanging over the edge. Below him, he could see the glowing red walls of the thermal exhaust tunnel. The heat hit him like a physical force. He held the baby with his right hand, pressed against his chest. His left hand gripped the edge of the vent opening, trying to find something to hold on to. The metal edge was burning hot from the thermal exhaust. Pain shot through his palm and fingers, but he held on. The baby was crying now, high-pitched and terrified. Kiro's tiny claws dug into Daejung's uniform, trying to find safety. "It's okay," Daejung gasped, even though it was not okay. His hand was burning. His arm was shaking from holding his own weight plus the baby's. "It's okay, little one. I've got you." He tried to pull himself up, but the edge was too smooth and too hot. His shoes could not find grip on the polished floor. Every second, his grip weakened. The baby cried louder. Daejung felt his fingers slipping. The pain was incredible now, like his hand was on fire. His vision blurred, but he did not let go of the baby. He would not let go. "Help!" he shouted, though his voice sounded weak to his own ears. "Someone help." Then alarms began to blare throughout the station. Red lights flashed. The pressure sensors had detected the breach. Emergency systems activated automatically. Daejung heard shouting and running footsteps, but they sounded far away. His whole world had narrowed to two things, the burning pain in his hand and the crying baby pressed against his chest. He had been holding on for what felt like forever, but was probably less than a minute. His left hand was losing feeling. The smell of burning skin filled his nose. His own skin. "Hold on, baby," he whispered to Kiro. "Just hold on a little longer. Someone's coming. They are coming." The baby's cries grew quieter, more tired. The little dragon was exhausted from fear. Daejung's vision darkened at the edges. His grip was failing. He could feel his fingers starting to slip from the burning metal edge. This was it. He was going to fall. But maybe, just maybe, he could throw the baby back onto the floor before he dropped. Maybe he could save Kiro even if he could not save himself. He was preparing to make that throw when strong hands grabbed his shoulders and pulled him back from the edge. Emergency response teams pulled Daejung away from the vent opening. His back hit the floor, and he gasped for air. The baby was still clutched against his chest, crying but alive. Station security surrounded them immediately, along with medical personnel in white uniforms. A medic tried to take the baby from Daejung's arms, but his right arm would not move properly. It was locked in position, holding Kiro protectively. The medic had to gently pry his arm open. Even then, Daejung's first word was not about himself. Is he hurt? Please check him. Make sure he's okay. The medic examining the baby dragon looked surprised. The infant appears unharmed, but you need immediate treatment. Your hand. Check him first, Daejung insisted, his voice weak. Please. Two more medics began scanning the baby with handheld devices. The little dragon had stopped crying and was looking around with confused eyes. His small body was trembling, but there were no injuries, not a single scratch. Then a sound filled the corridor that made everyone freeze. It was a roar, not loud, but deep and filled with such rage that it seemed to vibrate through the walls themselves. The temperature in the corridor seemed to drop despite the thermal vent still pumping hot air. Emperor of Wrath appeared at the entrance to the maintenance area. His golden eyes were blazing with fury. His crimson scales seemed darker, almost blood-red. Behind him came the Empress, her face twisted with panic and fear. Where's MY's son? The Emperor's voice was like thunder. The crowd of security and medical staff parted immediately. No one wanted to stand between an enraged Dragon Emperor and anything else in the universe. Empress Lyra saw the baby first. She let out a cry and rushed forward, her hand shaking as she took Kiro from a medic. She held him close, checking every inch of his small body with desperate maternal care. Tears ran down her face, leaving silver trails on her blue scales. "He's alive," she whispered. "He's alive. Oh, thank the stars, he's alive." Emperor of Wrath moved forward like a storm. His eyes swept the scene, taking in the open vent, the damaged safety cover, the emergency teams, and finally landing on Daejung lying on the floor. Who is responsible for this? The Emperor's voice was cold now, which was somehow more terrifying than his rage. Who allowed my son to be endangered? Who failed in their duty? Manager Teeman pushed through the crowd, his face pale and sweating. Your Majesty, I take full responsibility. The maintenance crew should have sealed that vent. I should have checked personally. I will accept whatever punishment. Silence. The Emperor's single word cut through Teeman's explanation. His eyes were still fixed on Daejung. You, human, explain what happened. Daejung tried to sit up, but his body would not cooperate. The medics were working on his left hand, which he could not feel anymore. He could smell burned flesh and realize it was his own. His vision swam, but he forced himself to focus on the Emperor. Your Majesty, he managed to say, though his voice shook. The baby, he crawled away during the argument. No one saw. I saw him going toward the vent. He fell in. I caught him. I'm sorry about the mess. I dropped my tray. I'll pay for the broken glasses. The Emperor stared at him. The silence stretched for what felt like forever. You caught him, the Emperor repeated slowly. You caught my son as he fell. Yes, Your Majesty. Show me your hand. The medic hesitated, then carefully lifted Daejung's left hand. It was wrapped in emergency gel that was already turning red with blood. The skin underneath was burned badly. In some places, it was burned down to the muscle. The smell was awful. Empress Lyra gasped when she saw it. Even some of the security guards looked away. Emperor of Wrath studied the injury with an unreadable expression. How long did you hold on? I don't know, Your Majesty. It felt very long, but probably just a minute or two before help came. The edge of that vent reaches 800 degrees, one of the medics said quietly. Most species would let go within 5 seconds. The pain would be unbearable. I couldn't let go, Daejung said simply. He would have fallen. The Emperor looked at him for a long moment. Then he turned to face manager Teeman, who looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. You were going to fire this human. The Emperor's voice was quiet but dangerous. Teeman's eyes went wide. I thought, Your Majesty, I assumed you would be angry about the disruption. The disruption? The Emperor's voice rose slightly. The only disruption was the incompetence that left a dangerous vent unsealed in a public area. And the only reason my son is alive is because this human had the awareness to see the danger and the courage to act. He turned back to Daejung. What is your name? Daejung, Your Majesty. Daejung. The Emperor spoke the name carefully, as if memoizing it. You risked your life for my son. You held on to burning metal rather than let him fall. Why? The question seemed strange to Daejung. Why? What kind of question was that? He's just a baby, Your Majesty. Anyone would have done the same. Something flickered in the Emperor's golden eyes. Surprise, perhaps, or maybe something else. No, the Emperor said softly. They would not have. He turned to the crowd of witnesses. Everyone in this corridor will be questioned. I want to know exactly how this happened. I want the names of everyone responsible for station maintenance. And I want to see security footage of everything. The head of security nodded quickly. Yes, Your Majesty. Right away. The Emperor looked at the medics working on Daejung. Take him to the Imperial Medical Wing. Give him the best treatment available. Spare no expense. Your Majesty, one of the senior medics said nervously. The Imperial Medical Wing is only for those I say it is for, the Emperor interrupted. This human saved my son's life. He will receive the same care I would receive. Is that understood? Yes, Your Majesty. They began to lift Daejung onto a medical stretcher. The movement sent fresh waves of pain through his arm, and he gasped despite trying to stay quiet. The baby dragon heard the sound and began to cry again. Empress Lara tried to soothe Kiro, but the baby kept reaching toward Daejung, making distressed chirping noises. He wants him, the Empress said with wonder in her voice. Kiro wants a human who saved him. Emperor of Wrath watched as his son struggled in his mother's arms, clearly trying to get to Daejung. The infant's cries grew louder and more insistent. Bring the stretcher closer, the Emperor commanded. The medics moved the stretcher next to where the Emperor stood. She lowered the baby so he could see Daejung's face. Immediately, Kiro's cries softened. The little dragon reached out with one tiny claw and touched Daejung's cheek. Daejung managed a weak smile despite his pain. It's okay, little one. You're safe now. Your mama and papa are here. The baby made a soft cooing sound and seemed to relax. His eyes started to close, exhausted from fear and crying. Remarkable, the Empress whispered. He feels safe with you. Emperor of Wrath's expression was complex. He looked at Daejung, then at his son, then back at Daejung. Take him to medical, the Emperor said, but keep me informed of his condition. Every hour. Your Majesty, you don't need to, Daejung started to say. I will decide what I need to do, the Emperor said, but his voice was not harsh. You saved my son. That is a debt I do not take lightly. As the medics carried Daejung away, he heard the Emperor giving more orders. The restaurant was being closed for investigation. The Krellian ambassador was being detained. The maintenance crew was being questioned. The entire station was on high alert. Daejung's last thought before the pain medication took effect was simple and confused. He had just done what anyone should do. Why was everyone making such a big deal about it? The baby needed help, so he helped. That was all. But as consciousness faded, he remembered the look in the Emperor's golden eyes. It was not just gratitude. It was something deeper. Something like shock. As if the Emperor had seen something he never expected to see. As if he had seen something that changed everything he thought he knew. Daejung woke up in a room that looked nothing like any hospital room he had ever seen. The walls were a soft pearl color that seemed to glow with their own light. The bed was incredibly comfortable, adjusting automatically to support his body. Medical equipment surrounded him, but it was all elegant and quiet, nothing like the loud beeping machines in human hospitals. His left hand was wrapped in something that looked like silver webbing. It felt cool and tingly, but there was no pain. Actually, he felt no pain anywhere, which was strange considering what had happened. A medical attendant noticed he was awake. She was a tall woman with pale green skin and 3 eyes. She smiled and came to his bedside. "Good morning," she said gently. "How do you feel?" "I feel fine, actually. Where am I?" "You are in the Imperial Medical Wing of Station Meridian. You have been asleep for 14 hours. The Emperor ordered that you receive the finest care available." 14 hours. Daejung tried to sit up and found he could do so easily. Whatever treatment they had given him was far beyond anything available to regular humans. "My hand is healing well. We use regeneration therapy. In another 2 days, you should have full function back. There will be no permanent damage." Daejung stared at the silver webbing. Regeneration therapy was incredibly expensive. Most humans could never afford it. They would live with scars and limited movement for the rest of their lives after an injury like his. "I can't pay for this," he said quietly. "I don't have that kind of money." The attendant looked confused. "Pay? The Emperor has covered all expenses. You are his personal guest." Before Daejung could respond, the door to his room opened. A Thularian official entered, wearing formal robes marked with the Imperial seal. Behind him came 2 guards. "Daejung of Earth," the official said formally, "His Majesty Emperor of Wrath requests your presence. Are you well enough to travel?" Yes, I think so." "Then please come with me." Daejung was given clean clothes to wear. Not his weighty uniform, but simple, comfortable clothing in dark blue. The guards escorted him through corridors he had never seen before. This part of the station was restricted to the highest levels of Imperial government. They entered a large conference room. Emperor of Wrath stood at the head of a long table, studying a holographic display. Empress Lara sat nearby, holding baby Kiro, who was playing with a soft toy. When the baby saw Daejung, he made an excited chirping sound and reached toward him. The Emperor toned, "Daejung, please, sit." Daejung sat in the offered chair, feeling very out of place. Why was he here? Was he in trouble? Had he somehow broken some rule he did not know about? "How is your hand?" the Emperor asked. "Much better, Your Majesty. Thank you for the treatment. I don't know how I can ever repay." The Emperor raised one clawed hand. "You owe me nothing. I owe you everything. My son's life is worth more than all the credits in the Empire." He gestured to the holographic display. "We have completed our investigation into yesterday's incident. I want you to see what we found." The display showed security footage from the restaurant. Daejung watched himself moving between tables, serving food. Then the argument started between the Krellian ambassador and the Velkori representative. The camera angle switched to show baby Kiro crawling away from his seat. But then the footage jumped to a different camera. This one showed the maintenance area behind the kitchen. 2 Krellian technicians were working on the thermal vent. Daejung watched as they deliberately removed the safety cover and left it unsealed. One of the Krellians spoke to the other. The audio was clear. "When the Imperial spawn wanders back here, it will fall. The Empire will blame station maintenance. By the time they investigate properly, we will be long gone. And the Krellian Empire will be free from Thularian dominance," the other replied. "A small sacrifice for freedom." Daejung felt sick. It was not an accident. It was attempted murder. They had tried to kill a baby. The argument in the restaurant was staged. The Emperor explained, his voice cold with controlled fury. It was meant to distract everyone while the baby wandered toward the trap. They used pheromones to make Kiro want to follow the warm air toward the vent. The footage continued. It showed Daejung dropping his tray and running. The camera captured everything. His dive, his catch, his body slamming against the vent opening, his hand gripping the burning metal edge. A timestamp appeared on the screen. The Emperor pointed to it. 47 seconds. That is how long you held on before help arrived. 47 seconds with your hand on metal heated to 800 degrees. He pulled up another display. This one showed medical analysis data. Our doctors were curious about how you managed this. Most species would have let go within 10 seconds. The pain receptors in their brains would override any conscious decision. But humans, He paused. Humans have something unusual. Your medical scans show extremely high levels of what you call adrenaline. Your species can, in moments of extreme need, override pain completely. Empress Lara spoke for the first time. Our doctors say it is survival adaptation. Humans evolved on a dangerous world. You needed to be able to keep fighting or running even when injured. Yes, the Emperor said, but it is more than that. We researched your species' history. Do you know what we found? Daejung shook his head, confused about where this was going. The Emperor pulled up more data. Images and text from Earth's history filled the display. We found thousands of recorded incidents of humans risking their lives to save others. Not just their own children, but strangers, even animals. There are stories of your people running into burning buildings to save those trapped inside, jumping into floods to pull others to safety, throwing themselves in front of vehicles to push children out of harm's way. More images appeared. News articles, videos, historical records, all showing humans performing acts of extreme courage and self-sacrifice. This is not normal, the Emperor said quietly. Most species have strong protective instincts for their own offspring. Some extend this to close family or pack members. But humans, you extend it to everyone, even to species that treat you as inferior. He looked directly at Daejung. You did not hesitate, not for 1 second. The moment you saw my son in danger, you acted. You did not think about the risk to yourself. You did not consider that he was not your species. You just saved him. He was a baby in danger, Daejung said, still not understanding why this was so significant. What else would I do? Exactly, the Emperor said. What else would you do? That is the question that has troubled me since yesterday. He dismissed the holographic display and sat down across from Daejung. I have ruled the Thalarian Empire for 200 years. I have met thousands of species. I have seen courage in battle. I have seen loyalty among soldiers. I have seen parents protect their young. But I have never seen what you did. Instant, thoughtless sacrifice for being not of your kind. And from everything I have learned about humans, this is not unusual for your species. This is normal. Empress Lara leaned forward. Do you understand what this means? For centuries, the galaxy has treated humans as a servant species, as simple beings good only for basic labor. We thought you were weak because you did not fight back. We thought you were unintelligent because you did not demand more. But we were wrong, the Emperor said. Your strength is not in your bodies or your weapons. It is in your hearts, your willingness to help others, even at cost to yourselves, your instinct to protect the vulnerable, regardless of who they are. He stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars beyond the station. Yesterday, a human way to save my son's life while ambassadors and guards and the most powerful beings in the galaxy failed to even notice he was in danger. A human, who we pay barely enough to survive, who we treat as invisible, risked permanent injury and death for a child he had never met. And when I asked him why, he looked confused, as if there was no other choice. The Emperor turned back to face Daejung. I have made a terrible mistake. We all have. The galaxy has made a terrible mistake, and I intend to correct it. Daejung sat in stunned silence. He still felt like he had just done the obvious thing, the right thing. But somehow, to these powerful beings, it was something incredible, something that changed how they saw his entire species. Baby Kiro made a soft sound. The Empress looked down at her son, then at Daejung. He has not stopped asking for you, she said softly. Every time he wakes up, he looks around for you. You saved him, and somehow he knows it. He feels safe with you. She stood and walked over to Daejung. To his shock, she placed the baby in his arms. Kiro immediately settled down, making happy chirping sounds and curling his tail around Daejung's arm. My son has chosen you as his protector, she said, and my husband has chosen to see humans as they truly are. What happens next will change everything for your species. Daejung looked down at the small dragon in his arms and wondered what he had started. All he had done was save a baby. How could that change everything? But as he met the Emperor's golden eyes, he saw determination there, and he began to realize that maybe, just maybe, one small act of kindness really could change the world. 3 days after the incident, Emperor Wrath called for a full gathering of the Galactic Council. This was not a regular meeting. This was an imperial summons, which meant attendance was mandatory for every ambassador, representative, and leader within range of Station Meridian. Dae-jung stood in a small waiting room adjacent to the Grand Council chamber. His hand was almost completely healed now, with only faint pink marks where the burns had been. He wore formal clothes that the Empress had given him, dark blue with silver threading. He felt uncomfortable and out of place. "Why do I need to be here?" he asked Manager Teeman, who stood nearby looking equally nervous. Teeman had not been fired. In fact, the Emperor had cleared him of all blame after reviewing the footage. "The Emperor requested your presence," Teeman said. "When the Emperor requests something, you do not ask why. You simply obey." The doors opened, and an Imperial Guard gestured for them to enter. The Grand Council chamber was enormous, with seating for over 500 delegates. Every seat was filled. Dae-jung recognized species from across the galaxy. The insect-like Krellians, though their seats were notably empty where the conspirators had been. The blue-skinned Velkori. The rock-like Gorim from the mining worlds. The energy beings of the Lumina Collective in their containment suits. Representatives from hundreds of worlds and systems. At the center of the chamber, on a raised platform, sat Emperor Vrath and Empress Lyra. Baby Kiro was in a protected carrier beside them, sleeping peacefully. Dae-jung and Teeman were directed to seats near the front, in a section usually reserved for honored guests. Many of the alien delegates stared at them with curiosity and some with barely hidden contempt. Humans in the Grand Council chamber were rare. Humans seated in the honored section were unheard of. Emperor Vrath stood, and immediately the chamber fell silent. When a Thalarian emperor stood to speak, everyone listened. 3 days ago, there was an assassination attempt on my son, the emperor began. His voice carried clearly through the chamber's sound system. The conspirators are being captured and have confessed fully. They will face justice under imperial law. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Assassination of imperial family members was one of the highest crimes in the galaxy. But today, I am not here to discuss their punishment. I am here to discuss what their attempt revealed. The Emperor's golden eyes swept across the assembly. My son nearly died because of a failure. Not a failure of security, but a failure of awareness, of care, of basic decency. He gestured, and holographic displays appeared throughout the chamber, showing the security footage from the restaurant. The delegates watched as baby Kiro crawled away, as the argument distracted everyone, as the infant approached the deadly vent. Then they watched as Dae-jung dropped everything and ran, as he caught the baby and held on despite the burning metal, as he refused to let go. The chamber was completely silent when the footage ended. This human waited to do what dozens of trained guards, diplomats, and even myself failed to do. He saw the danger. He acted without hesitation. He endured 47 seconds of extreme pain rather than let my son fall to his death. The Emperor paused, and when I asked him why, he seemed confused by the question. To him, it was obvious. The baby needed help, so he helped. Emperor Vrath walked to the edge of the platform, his presence dominating the chamber. For the past 3 days, I have researched humanity extensively. I have studied their history, their culture, their biology, and their behavior patterns. What I discovered disturbed me greatly, not because of what humans are, but because of what we have failed to see. More holographic images appeared. Historical records from Earth. Videos of humans helping each other during disasters. Stories of sacrifice and courage. Medical data showing human stress responses and adrenaline capabilities. Humans possess an unusual trait. They have an instinct to protect and help others, even at great personal cost. Even when those others are not their own species. Even when those others have treated them poorly. This trait is so common among humans that they consider it normal, expected, unremarkable. A Velkori ambassador stood. Your Majesty, with respect, many species show protective instincts. For their own kind, yes, the Emperor replied. But humans extend this instinct far beyond what is evolutionarily logical. They save drowning animals. They run into fires to save strangers. They share food with those who have none, even when they have little themselves. And they do this not for reward or recognition, but because they believe it is simply what should be done. He turned to look directly at Dae-jung. Stand up. Dae-jung's heart pounded as he stood. Every eye in the chamber was on him now. This is Daejung of Earth. Before 3 days ago, he was a waiter at Stella Crown Restaurant. He earned barely enough to support his family. He was treated as invisible by most of his customers. His species is classified as a labor class, suitable only for simple service work. The Emperor's voice grew harder. And yet this simple waiter saved my son when everyone else failed. This inferior human showed more courage, more awareness, and more compassion than the so-called superior species in that restaurant. The Emperor raised one clawed hand, and a document appeared on the holographic displays. I am issuing an imperial decree, effective immediately. First, Daejung of Earth is hereby granted the title of Savior of the Imperial Blood, and is awarded full noble status within the Thalarian Empire, with all rights, privileges, and protections that entails. Gasps and murmurs filled the chamber. Noble status granted to a human? This was unprecedented. Second, humanity is no longer classified as a labor class species. They are hereby granted full citizen status under imperial law, with all protections and opportunities available to any other species. The murmurs grew louder. This was even more shocking. Third, Earth and all human colonies will be brought under direct imperial protection. Any aggression toward humanity will be considered aggression toward the Empire itself. Several ambassadors started to object, but the Emperor's glare silenced them. Fourth, the Empire will establish a formal alliance with Earth's government. We will provide economic support, technology sharing, and military training. Humanity will be given the resources to take their rightful place among the galactic community. Your Majesty! A Krellian ambassador jumped to his feet. This is madness. You would elevate an entire species because one of them did his job. His job? The Emperor's voice was dangerously quiet. His job was to serve food. Nowhere in his job description does it say to risk his life for strangers. Nowhere does it say to endure extreme pain to save a child not of his species. He did that because of who he is, because of what humans are. The Emperor moved to stand beside Daejung. I am 200 years old. I have met thousands of species, and I have never been more ashamed than I am now, knowing how we have treated humanity. We saw their kindness as weakness. We saw their cooperation as simple-mindedness. We saw their willingness to serve as proof of inferiority. We were fools. Empress Lara stood as well, holding baby Kiro, who had woken up. Our son would be dead without this human. We owe him a debt that can never be repaid. But more than that, we owe all humanity an apology and amends for centuries of mistreatment. The Emperor turned to address the full assembly. Some of you will resist this decree. Some of you profit from cheap human labor. Some of you simply cannot accept that you were wrong. But understand this. I have made my decision. Any species that wishes to protest may do so by severing ties with the Thalarian Empire. I suspect you will find that economically and militarily unwise. No one spoke. The threat was clear. Emperor Wrath looked down at Daejung. I am also asking you personally, Daejung of Earth, to accept a position in my household. My son has bonded with you. He feels safe with you. I would like you to serve as his personal guardian and teacher. You would live in the imperial palace, have full access to our resources, and help raise the future emperor of the Thalarian Empire. Daejung felt dizzy. This could not be real. This could not be happening. Your Majesty, I don't know anything about raising a dragon prince. I'm just a waiter. You know the most important thing, the Emperor said gently. You know how to care for a child, how to protect someone vulnerable, how to put another's safety before your own. Those are the lessons we want our son to learn. Daejung looked at the baby dragon in the Empress's arms. Kiro was looking right at him with bright, curious eyes. When their eyes met, the baby made a happy chirping sound and reached toward him with tiny claws. How could he say no to that? I would be honored, Your Majesties. The Emperor placed one large clawed hand on Daejung's shoulder. Then it is settled. He turned back to the assembly. This meeting is concluded. The imperial decree is in effect immediately. You are all dismissed. As the delegates filed out, many looking shocked or angry, Daejung remained standing on the platform. The Empress handed him baby Kiro, and the little dragon immediately curled up against his chest, making contented sounds. 5 years passed. Daejong stood in the Imperial Palace gardens, watching his young prince Kiro practice his flying. The once tiny dragon was now the size of a large dog, with beautiful scales that shimmered in the sunlight. He was still clumsy with his wings, but improving every day. Guardian Daejong, Kiro called out, using the title he had given to the human who saved him. Watch this. The young prince launched himself into the air, managed 3 complete circles, and landed with only a slight stumble. He looked at Daejong with obvious pride. That was excellent. Kiro, much better than yesterday. From the palace terrace above, Emperor Wrath and Empress Lara watched the scene. The Emperor's expression was peaceful, something that had become more common in recent years. You were right, the Empress said softly. About humans. About everything. I was blind, the Emperor replied. We all were, but no longer. Below, other human children played in the gardens alongside young Thalarians and other species. The palace had become a symbol of the new alliance between the Empire and humanity. Human students attended imperial academies. Human workers held important positions across the Empire. Human colonies thrived under imperial protection. And it had all started because one way to refuse to let a baby fall. Emperor of Wrath watched as Daejong laughed at something Kiro said, and thought about how one moment of courage had changed everything. Not just for his family, but for billions of humans across the galaxy. Thank you, he whispered, though Daejong could not hear him. Thank you for showing me the truth. In the garden, Daejong had no idea he was being watched. He was too busy helping Kiro practice his landings, the same way he had once helped his younger cousins learn to ride bicycles back on Earth. To him, it was just another day of taking care of a child who needed guidance. He never did understand why everyone thought what he did was so special. To Daejong, kindness was not extraordinary. It was simply being human.